Chicago Bears 28, Detroit Lions 13. Bears move to 5-8. Lions move to 9-4. A lot of similarities to the last time that they played, with the Bears controlling most of the game. It was back and forth early, though. The Bears got up, the Lions came back. And I say this every week, when the underdog handles, when they handle the comeback from the favorite, that's when things get tense. But then, the Bears go into the fourth quarter with a 2-score lead, and you're still thinking, we've seen this before. The Lions were down 2 scores with like 5 minutes left the last time they played, and they still pulled it off, but not this time. Bears cracked down, win at 28-13. Second time they've made Jared Goff look not so good. Goff is in the middle of a slump, multi-week slump. Justin Fields looked pretty good on his side of the ball, and the Bears looking good, man.
Yeah, if Justin Fields only had to play the Lions, there would be no question about whether he was the future or the franchise quarterback. He'd be like an all-pro already. They can't defend him. I mean, they couldn't deal with him early. It's helped also. It feels like the Bears only bring out the good plays against the Lions, right? Like they had that DJ Moore sort of trick run where he lines up as the quarterback, and then was it Fields in motion from the slot?
Yeah, great play.
Yeah,
they
it really was.
The end around.
Right, to Fields.
Right.
And then Moore just keeps it and goes back to where Fields came from, and it's like a wide open run for a touchdown. It's like that's a great play with the threat that Fields is as a runner. And it completely flummoxed the Lions defense. But it's like, where is that for the majority of this team? It seems to only come out against the Lions. And then later in the game, they run this like TE stunt on one side of the defensive line from the Lions. So the tackle goes first, the end comes in, loops around. I saw some people criticizing Aiden Hutchinson for like jumping inside and giving up contain.
Saw the same.
But like the tackle is supposed to be out there. He just never makes it anywhere near it. So as soon as Hutchinson loops back inside, there is now no edge. There's no contain. And Fields just goes, oh, okay, yoink, runs right into the space, just wanders out for a touchdown. It's like, this is basic stuff. Like, what are we doing?
You see that more in today's NFL than ever, which is because there's so many mobile quarterbacks and guys who like to get out of the pocket and make plays. You see this a lot with teams playing Mahomes. It's good to stunt, to just mix it up a little bit, right? Because sometimes you're trying to like bait the quarterback, and it's like, hey, it looked like the edge was open, but hey, there's somebody there. The challenge is when you run that stunt and you put a 300-pounder now as the contain player,
this is the downside.
Against an athletic quarterback, it's a challenge. And then you have, the offensive line's trying to block you, and if they just get your hands on you before you get to the edge, that's what happened in this game, on this play, Fields with the 11-yard touchdown screen.
When you see the numbers and the production sometimes of plays with stunts, and when you see stunts work well, you tend to ask yourself, like, why is any team running like not a lot of stunts? Why wouldn't every team run more of them? Sort of like the play action numbers, where it's like everything says run more play action. Well, everything says run more stunts, and you're like, what is the downside here? Well, this play was the downside, right? The exchanging gaps can be a two-edged sword. It makes it more difficult for offensive linemen to pick up the two guys that are rushing and exchanging their gap. But the downside is if one guy doesn't get back into the other gap, now you've blown a gap, and there's a giant space for an athletic quarterback to be able to run into and be completely free into the second level.
Late in the third quarter, it was 19-13 Chicago. So before that, I don't know if it led right to that touchdown, but 19-13 Chicago, and Jared Goff just drops a snap in his own territory.
No idea.
Bears recover. 3 total turnover-worthy plays for Goff, that one on the snap. I mean, Goff just has not played well against the Bears. The one other thing here, too, with the Lions, I didn't get there. They were 1 of 5 on fourth down, failed on a 4th and 1 in their own territory. And so they've won games this year. The Chargers game in particular, where it was like 4th and 6, we're just going to run it first down.
And they keep going for the crazy ones. Like they went for 4th and 10 in this game, threw an interception.
Yeah, and the interception's fine at that point. I mean, you know what I mean. Like you'd rather convert, but at that point,
I mean,
the interception and incompletions.
You're giving them the ball anyway. You might as well take a shot at it.
Yeah, that's my point here is when 4th downs work, obviously they're going to increase win probability. Yeah. When they don't work, they're going to decrease win probability way more than usual. So sometimes if you're that aggressive, you get these volatile games. When variance doesn't go your way, it's going to look ugly, and that was what happened with the Lions here.
It's also a little bit, I haven't looked at all the ones in this game, but remember a few years when Brandon Staley first rocked up and was going for every fourth down, and everyone was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, this is why analytics is terrible. And you're like, he's not even going with the analytics. Like, he's way more aggressive than the analytics say. All of the go for it, no go for it stuff was saying, don't go for half of these. And Brandon Staley was going for all of them. And it's like, this is what Dan Campbell has been doing this year. He has not necessarily been sticking to what the analytics says. They've been way more aggressive. And was it against the Chargers a few weeks ago where he went for a bunch of these? And they all, like, the net was a massive win for Detroit, right? They failed on one down by the goal line, and so they didn't end up getting any points out of it. But, like, they went for a bunch of them. And the net outcome of those, I think they went for 5 or 6 times or something in the game. They were way ahead. But they were way more aggressive than the analytics say. And they ended up getting paid out off for it because they converted so many of them. Well, if you're going to be way more aggressive and not convert, now you're going to start catching like a massive end of negative from this. And then they kind of failed twice, right? Like the start of the game was this, we've seen this script again. We can't stop Justin Fields and we're in a hole. But then they had that play just before the half where they had like an 11-play drive, chewed up some clock, took the clock down to the wire, and then scored a touchdown to take the lead for the first time. And it's like, if you were, this season for Detroit, a little bit like Jacksonville, it's like, are you actually for real, or are you just in and around the fringes of playoff contention and, ultimately you're the same team as you were a year ago? If you were this true contender that the Lions want to be this season, that would have been a moment to kind of relax, breathe, reset, and like start again, right? We came into this game, we were expected to win, we got punched in the mouth, we were in a hole, we dug our way out of it, and hey, look, we've got to halftime, we're up. Like, everything that happened in the first half doesn't really matter. We're where we should be. We are winning this game despite it being a bad first half. And instead, they just sort of let the same thing happen again. It's like, that doesn't speak tremendously well to, championship aspirations.
That's what I was kind of trying to say. You described it like as they got punched in the mouth, and then you come back and you take the lead. Now, here's the other key play. 3rd and 13, late third quarter. Justin Fields is getting sacked. He throws the ball away. I'm the intentional grounding police.
Oh.
He's trying to throw the ball away. He throws it off of Darnell Wright's ankle. Darnell Wright's the right tackle.
Yes.
He's not an eligible receiver. And Dan Campbell and the Lions were furious that this was not called intentional grounding. So I'm generally empathetic to the quarterback who's getting hit, and because he's getting hit, he's unable to get the ball anywhere near a receiver. Because, we grade plays and we look at this and we're like, well, that's not an inaccurate pass. He got popped. Of course you can't make an inaccurate pass when you're getting hit. But this is one where Field starts getting hit. He's on his way down. There is a tight end in the flat, and he kind of, tries to get rid of it. Doesn't get anywhere near the receiver. Lions were furious. This would have made it 4th and 1,000,000, and they probably would have just punted or whatever. So they don't call it. They just call it a throwaway. It's nowhere near the receiver, but it's like he's throwing it in that direction, but he's getting hit. Next play is 4th and 13. DJ Moore runs behind the defense. On 4th and 13, was it Jerry Jacobs just runs right by him for a 32-yard touchdown? And that ended up being, that's the game winner. That ended up being the difference in the game. So those two plays were absolutely massive as well. Credit the Bears, though. They made the play when they needed, but 4th and 13, that is egregious defense. And if there's a concern for the Lions, there's two big concerns. Jared Goff putting the ball in harm's way over and over again and just not playing as crisp and clean as he had the first 10 or 12 weeks of the season, 10 weeks of the season, say. And then the defense, the inconsistency rushing the passer, inconsistency on the back end after all their injuries, and all that stuff, I think, showed up from a Lions perspective here.
And they got them the jump on that play as well. Like, it was a free play.
At 4th and 13.
Yeah. Like, that was, not only was it a terrible, like, you let the guy wander behind a defense on 4th and 13 for a touchdown.
Football.
Bad, like in isolation. Then you add on top of that, and it was a free play because you jumped off sides. It's like, the worst possible defensive play.
So Bears win a couple in a row here. They're also in this interesting spot because, again, like when Justin Fields is not playing like he did the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year, where he's playing, with scrambling as an option, with some designed runs as an option, he's playing all right.
I mean, if it wasn't for the Panthers, Justin Fields would be putting the Bears in a very awkward situation where, hey, we kind of want to move away from you because you've shown enough bad at this point that Caleb Williams or Drake May is probably a better option. But if they had just their own pick, they probably don't have a shot at either of those guys anymore.
Yeah, and that's
they're now 5-8.
And so I think they're absolutely going to move on from Fields, right?
Yeah.
And so this is going to be even more for the Bears offseason, which we'll have plenty to talk about this offseason. Not only having the number 1 overall pick, having their pick, which seems to be getting worse now every week because they're winning, but then whatever they can get for Fields.
Now down to number 7.
Yeah, that's harsh. So whatever they can get for Fields too, the assets that the Bears have accumulated the last couple of years between trading down from number 1, from having Fields, and people around, like there's going to be 10 teams around the league who probably want to, have a Justin Fields. So there'll be plenty to talk about there. And Fields playing well is just another win for the Bears, even if it's hurting their draft position. I don't think it's a huge deal.
Yeah, like I said, because they've got Carolinas, it doesn't really matter. But
right.
if it wasn't for that, it would be putting them in a real bind.